What inspired the title The Devil's Blues? Is there a particular story or symbolism behind it?
Blues music arose from the African American experience during and after the era of slavery, rooted in the musical traditions brought by enslaved Africans to the United States. As these individuals faced profound oppression and hardship, they created a unique form of expression that blended African rhythms, spirituals, work songs, and folk traditions, reflecting their struggles, hopes, and resilience. The genre served as a powerful outlet for emotional expression, often addressing themes of sorrow, love, and social injustice. Over time, the blues evolved, influencing various musical styles and becoming a foundational element of American music, symbolizing both the pain of slavery and the enduring spirit of those who endured it. The Devil's Blues arose from a similar story of oppression that I lived through, though on a minor arc, a few years ago when I was the subject of a trial by social media. This resulted in me being banned from several local venues. I was advised by a legal expert that I had grounds to sue for defamation the person who started the trouble. This is an option I have not yet taken but may do later. Although I was never really a part of a musical community, any tenuous ties I had with one have now been permanently severed and will never be re-established. The best way to destroy your artistic integrity is to seek approval or validation from others. One thing I felt was important to do with this album was to pay tribute to some important blues-based artists like B.B. King and Tony Joe White, amongst others. Many do not understand how essential the blues has been in Western society. Without it there would be no Beatles, Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix or Allman Brothers Band, to name just a handful. It is hard to imagine a world without these artists. Their contributions have shaped modern music and its evolution.
How does your experience as a lifelong practitioner of esoteric arts influence the music and themes of this album?
As a pagan musician with an affinity for dark magic and gothic themes, I would obviously be drawn to blues and hoodoo music due to their rich connections to African spiritual traditions and the deep emotional resonance found in their rhythms and lyrics. Both of these genres are steeped in the history of African diaspora spirituality. This incorporates elements of ancestral worship, the supernatural, and the exploration of life's darker aspects. These themes of struggle, suffering, and transcendence present in blues music mirror the complexities of the human experience that are often explored in Gothic and pagan narratives. In addition, hoodoo's roots in African folk practices and its incorporation of ritualistic elements resonate with my interest in esoteric practices, creating a natural bridge between artistic expressions and the spiritual dimensions of these musical forms. So, the intersection of these influences fosters a profound appreciation for the historical and cultural significance of blues and hoodoo as expressions of resilience and magic in the face of adversity.
You've been a professional musician for over 50 years. What newer experimental elements can listeners expect from this album that reflect your growth as an artist?
The few people who know me, let alone know my music, realize that it manifests spontaneously, with little planning. This is because I work in the now. I don't know what elements people will expect from this album, and, knowing some musicians, I don't think they will care. They are busy with their own issues. I don't worry what others think. I have a very small circle of friends and just concentrate on what I am doing. What is important is that I have long-term goals, and the completion of the Devil's Blues album is one of them. Someone told me long ago to have both long and short-term plans, and I listened to them. One of the joys of being an eclectic musician is that there are no limits to what you can do. Also, you don't have to answer to anyone about your choices.
Blues has such deep roots in music history. How do you stay true to the genre, while adding your own eclectic and indie influences?
It is my personal conviction that only those of African descent can authentically play the blues. In fact, true blues no longer exists. It died a long time ago when its original founders passed from this world. What did not die is the spirit of the blues, which is alive and well and will remain so for all time. As a predominantly white person, I do not claim to be able to play the blues. The best I can do is to interpret it in my own way. People will point to white blues artists like Johnny Winter, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Ray Cooder and claim they are great blues players. Yes, they are, but they are playing in the spirit of the blues. Give me Robert Johnson playing Crossroads or Son House singing Grinning in Your Face. When I hear their recordings, I feel like I am sitting next to them while they play and sing. You can hear the pathos in their voices and their guitar work. It's real. That is often missing from modern blues. In the 1960s, there was a famous saying that was a question. It was, can a white man play the blues? No, he can't. He or she, for that matter, can only interpret it. So, I don't try to stay true to the genre because I cannot. But the inspiration I get from it as a musician is impossible to explain as it takes you to another world, and therein lies its true value. The good thing about music is that you can mold it into any form you like. The great fiddle player Dave Swarbrick from Fairport Convention said you can do anything to music and turn it on its head because it doesn't mind. With this album, I have twisted the genre. That's what indie musicians do, and that is the indie spirit.
Given that freedom of artistic expression is paramount for you, how do you navigate the balance between commercial appeal and staying authentic to your message in this album?
I ignore commercial appeal entirely, though I expect remuneration for performances and musical products. I will work for free for a good cause, though. I do not rely on music for income. I am a gardener. Music is my life, not my career. Authenticity comes easily as I just follow intuition. However, I feel sorry for many musicians who struggle with the very situation you just mentioned, which is navigating a balance between commercial appeal and staying authentic. There was a time when I also had that struggle. That was before I woke up to the fact that there is music, and then there is the music industry. Ozzy Osbourne said this in the 1970s, so it isn't news. Interestingly, even a talent as great as Ray Cooder was not able to do what the record companies wanted him to do because it was just not who he was or what he could be. In other words, he was real, and you can't fit a square peg into a round hole. Bless him.
You've mentioned human rights and esoterica play a big role in your work. How do those themes manifest in the lyrics or sound of the Devil's Blues?
It's about oppression. If you are the other, there is a good chance that you will be persecuted either for your appearance, beliefs or both. And African slaves were definitely the other. So, as an indie artist, I am happy to side with the devil, who is the embodiment of the ills of society with his taboo-breaking behavior. The lyrics refer to the devil's infernal attributes, and the atmosphere of the title track paints an oral picture of his menace. As an aside, some of the lyrics refer to human rights activism but would only be understood by those who are involved with certain causes. Esoteric aspects manifest through production techniques, particularly through the use of reverbs and delays.
The blues is often about personal struggle. Are there any tracks on this album that deal with specific challenges or personal experiences?
I have tried for my entire life to be who I am meant to be. Unlike many, I have been prepared to lose things that were close to me for the sake of following my true will, and as devastating as this has been personally, it is the only way forward. We supposedly only live once, so I can't see the sense in being like everyone else, going along to get along. What for? To make someone else happy? Would they do that for you? They wouldn't. And they didn't. The title track specifically deals with personal struggles. It's a Blues Thang is the most light-hearted track on the album. Even the devil has a sense of humor sometimes.
Dave Hole is one of the greatest blues slide guitarists. Did his influence or any past collaborations impact the sound or direction of this project?
I was his bass player in 1986 in Dave Hole and the Helping Hands. During this time, I was heavily into my punk ethic and had a mohawk hairstyle when we performed. I was with the band for possibly 3 months, but in that time, I played some incredible gigs. Most noteworthy was the inaugural Bindoon Rock Festival. We performed second, after Caught in the Act. There is a video that I no longer have, but I expect I'll get to see it again at some point. We also performed at Spencer's Brook, the Victoria Hotel in Subiaco, the Silver Slipper in Nedlands and the Civic Hotel, as well as in Bunbury and Midland. There was a mini Southwest tour with 2 unbelievable gigs at Dunsborough and the Settlers Tavern. It is the phenomenon of time that gives you perspective. Sometimes it is only when you look back on something that you realize the profundity of a situation that you were part of. To have performed with someone who became a blues legend is something most can only dream of, but that was indeed the case. The crazy part is, on the one hand, the utter normality of the musician and, on the other, their insane ability and energy. So, I have Dave to thank for a deeper understanding of the blues which impacts on this project. Incidentally, I remember when I first realized the power of the blues. It was when we were rehearsing the Elmore James version of Dust My Broom, and I was overwhelmed with the feeling that it was as powerful as heavy metal, especially the way Dave was playing it. I mentioned this to Dave, and he said yes, it's simple, but I know what you mean, it's incredibly strong. I later understood it was because it was a shuffle, and for me, there is nothing stronger in music.
How do you feel your Australian roots have shaped your approach to blues music, a genre traditionally associated with the American South?
As an immigrant from the UK, I was more influenced by my parents via 1960s British and American music than by anything Australian. However, I became a bass player after listening to the Smiley album of Australian singer Ronnie Burns, so that at least sent me in the right direction. I know there have been many Australian blues artists, but as far as being influenced by Australian blues, I could look no further than Chain, fronted by Matt Taylor. Something about that band and its rawness frightened me. It was the whole band that pushed out an incredible energy, and there were no passengers. However, the one guy who smashed the stage with his presence was their amazing bass player Barry Sullivan, who originally was a guitarist. I loved his playing and I really miss his presence.
How do you envision the Devil's Blues fitting into your wider discography? Is it a continuation of past work or something entirely new?
It's a continuation or a natural progression. It's also a thank you to the original American blues players. The blues is carnality, love, tragedy, longing, magic and spirituality all rolled into one. The blues is life itself. So, in this sense, the album is not something new. It is an affirmation.
What instruments or production techniques did you experiment with on this album to bring its unique sound to life?
I used a resonator guitar, a glass slide, a long-scale Monterey bass, a Gretsch short-scale bass, a Washburn and Pacifica electric guitars, a condenser and a dynamic microphone, as well as some loops. Everything is recorded with Logic Pro. As far as production goes, the top priority is creating the atmosphere for the song. This is primarily achieved with reverbs and delays. This process of production doesn't end, even when the song or album is released, because a mix is never finished. Neither is mastering.
Do fellow musicians or the audience ever mention your involvement in esoteric matters?
No, because I don't talk about it even if someone mentions esoterica. Now and again, someone will jokingly call me a Satanist, but I think most shy away from the topic because they don't understand it or don't want to feel uncomfortable. Occultism is only to be discussed amongst like-minded individuals anyway. Also, the deeper you go into spiritual work, the less you want to talk about it. The more you become aware of the collective negativity of humanity, the more aware you become of the joy and positivity of the inner worlds hidden within our consciousness. The lines between good and evil become blurred, and the terms start to become meaningless.
Are there any underlying messages or emotions you hope listeners take away after hearing The Devil's Blues?
Yes, I would like people to consider the importance of the blues to Western society and especially how something so powerful and beautiful was born out of pain and suffering. If the devil gave us the blues, he can't really be all that bad now, can he?